Hello, everyone. I am reminded that some few readings ago, I had asked myself the prediction of would I continue back on my track of women and non-binary authors after the Spare Man that I read. And for those of you who are waiting with bated breath, future Cody has looked back and can confidently tell you, yes. Welcome back to my poetry readings. I never really stopped to wonder why. I think I read these to you mostly out of comfort, mostly because I do actually get a pretty good source of dopamine and laughter out of them, par for the theme of Riently. But also just because I think poetry, there's a certain part of it where many of you are not, reading 100 books of poetry a day every year, or I should say 100 books of poetry a year every year, or a day, whatever, if you've got that kind of attention and time. But as such, there's a portion of poetry that really does come to you and gets appreciated by the tongue. And by that I mean like in enunciating and going through the sonic endeavor of reading the poem. So I hope this can be some kind of fun for you. Or you just like my voice. Which, if that is the case, then tell me, because I appreciate compliments. This is a poem by the poet Elsa Cross, wonderful, extraordinary Mexican talent, from the book Beyond the Sea, translated by Ana Maria Crow Serrano. I am going to do the thing that I didn't think I would do, which is I'm reading a longer poem. And by longer poem, I mean it's about 6 pages long, 7 pages. So forgive me, this will be a longer recording. This poem is titled Dithyrams. 1. You who untie the knots got both ends tangled. In the golden circle where time devours itself, consciousness turned inside out stops its fall. And in that unworkable thread, the unharmed leap, now a wing halfway through the air, begins another round. You who tie the knots become light, halfway down a crack, become letters like frozen drops, salt in the crystals of time. You jab my mind, bleeding, distant epicenter, and between what you say and what I hear, a corridor of mirrors, an erased outline, densities. 2. For Veronica Bocao. Your shapes are etched on the mountain, on the damp edges of rocks, cavities like armpits. Your shapes stick to my bones. I cease to exist. Only you remain, like jade among these folds. So much of you explodes in each leaf, reverberates in the distance, where your light devours all brilliance. Am I in your abyss, or do I surround it? I am reborn in the shade of the laurel, in the cell of a circular temple. If with one gigantic foot you hold up the heavens, like a whirlwind, your shapes absorb me, dissolve me, leave scraps of aniseed on my lips. And at the bottom of the cliffs, trees like gods, red cedars. 3. In the courtyard of white mosaics, arabesques trace limits for the eye. Their curves arrange your overflowing shadow. Salt glistens, the light more blinding, the more shadow it casts under the stooped pergola or on the carved corollas by the fountain. Pale, like your face, with more darkness in her eyes than you gather under the sky night falls. Your silence conceals the words etched on your skin. Your voice pulls harmonies from them that rhyme with death. Pale night in those fronds where peacocks of light dance. Plumes disturbed by the wind shaking out your procession of shadows as it sings in the ravine. 4. For Miriam Moscona. In the field of what we know, you spread delicate fibers like roots, touching webs of neurons with your mauves and your greens, sinking your recognizable shapes into their hollows. Something spreads like a wing, and you peep out, clever bird. In the evening, the river unravels. Water silver coats each bend, and the flotsam it carries flows like an episode under the bridge. Attention disperses, contracts, foam on the vapid surface. In asphodel meadows, your ample weave displays memories that gradually pale, live as nerves. You tear the tedium of shapes, voices in their finite scale, quadrilateral walls. Everything foreseeable, frayed like a saddle, breaks its mounting. Your voices won't retreat, even if my eye closes and a scream tries to scare them away from the field of what we know. 5. Licked by a shaft in your unworried eyes, the light is scalded on wet stone. In its tiny caverns among moss and insects, your solar pupil lingers. Cracks in the stone, fissures, something watching from the deep. Your look refracts the abyssal landslide, and eras of thought fall away. 6. Wearing the abyss, when your name is called, you shed your darkest gleam. As you go by, drunk, more than those depths, smooth, more than the night with which you envelop me. O dark one, O mighty one, that's where you hide. When you wake, nothing is left, and I am between my dream and your waking. I go from my breath to your eyelid, a pawn in a game like everything else that you annihilate when you open your eyes. 7. Under the split tree, a door to the underworld. Something is pulling my heart toward a depth not reached. I follow your footsteps. Moss covers the afternoon ferns sprout from the fountain. Nearby, a rooster pecks the ground and time hangs from a cobweb. I follow your footprints, which disappear mid-step. The dream sinks into your roots. I look at your footprints, where the tip of the leaf ends, where the interminable swirling stops. Among curling ferns, the red cedar trunk grows green again, and in those mosses advancing through summer, my death pulls its shores closer, duplicates your beautiful mask, your bird-like silence. I look at your turbulent footprints in each thing, and sink into an embrace I don't want to let go. 8. Your breeze comes enveloping the whole climate. Your fruity lips set winter's mouth ablaze. Blossoms open on skin, bristly pistils, an unexpected return to your hands already feeling my dress, moving to my breast. You trouble whatever you touch, dressing everything in green as you go by, leaving mottled colors on so many flowers they cannot be told apart. And who could, even knowing your deadly power, who could annihilate the hidden desire in every leaf, in every hummingbird. The season bursts into bloom with your cumbia and your songs, your inebriated tunes, like someone who expects his killer and waits in every corner of the dark. With your tiger eyes, the leap alerts, like someone who fears the crouching night at every turn. With your lustful streams, your electric colors, like someone searching for a sign. The sting of a bee, a blue buzz, in the guts of a bird, a biting fang. Where will it come from? A poison that stops only when it has invaded everything. If you have just listened to me read that whole poem, thank you so much. You have a longer attention span than most people these days, which is not to shame. There is so much of our technology and our media consumption that trains you not to pay attention to anything longer than a minute, that's just the way that the world is evolving. But that was 6 or 7 minutes of a poetry reading, so I'm very proud of you. What I love about Elsa Cross is that she dares to go into the mythical, the ancient. She uses words like abyssal to describe longing and desire, that there is an ache and absence in one's soul that is so deep that it cannot be defined by conventional boundaries. It has to be defined with something like an ages-wide hole with eternal darkness. I love that dramatic shit. Right now, looking at this crispy fall day, my abyssal yearning is for apple cider donuts, because for whatever reason, the Pacific Northwest hasn't quite found a good way of creating good apple cider donuts, even though there are plenty of orchards around here. Tell me about yours. Thank you for listening. Take care.